Welcome to my channel and thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. Today we are going to be making air dry clay trinket balls with a resin finish, and I'm actually going to be adding some beautiful shell detail to give them a little bit of a mermaid feel, and I'm really excited for you guys to join in and actually see the end result. You'll need some air dry clay. I'm using the one by Das. You'll need something to use as a rolling pin. I'm just using a bottle. We're also going to need some water to clean up any edges. These bowls are going to be used to lay out the general shape of everything. Then I'm also adding a few little details, and I'm using a few other small tools that I think will be necessary in order to make this bowl absolutely beautiful and amazing. We're going to take a section of clay and just roll it out. The goal here is just to make the clay easy to work with. So roll it around in your hands until it's nice and warm and until it just reaches that perfect consistency. And as you can see here, I'm just trying to create a nice shape to start off with, and then we're just going to start rolling this out. It's going to take us a little while. What you want to do is just make things really smooth and also make sure that there aren't any weird cracks or bubbles. After I'm happy with what I've rolled out, I'm going to use a bowl to create a beautiful round shape, and as you can see, I'm just using some scissors to cut off all the excess clay. Now I'm just going to smooth a few things out, and I'm going to use a little bit of water just to also perfect a few edges and actually remove any weird wrinkles or cracks in the clay. I'm using this tiny little shot glass because I want to create a bit of a center in the middle of the tray, and I'm actually going to use that to put some of my shell details in. So for these trinket balls, I'm going to be using some pearlescent shell details, but you can really use anything you want. You can use some beads or some stickers, or actually just look around your craft space and see what you can find. Air dry clay and using it can be extremely versatile, and I would encourage you to try out new things. So I'm just going to be arranging these shell details in a pattern that I like and enjoy, and that's what we're going to go with for every single bowl. These were actually so hard to work with. While I was recording this video, I actually managed to scatter shells everywhere a few times, and I had to stop the recording and try to pack everything up and start again. They would also get stuck to the clay, and it would be really hard for me to get them off. I would just be making dents everywhere, and it was quite frustrating for a while there, but at least it turned out amazingly. Whatever you use at the center of your bowls, you just want to secure them tightly. So I was actually just pressing the shells into the clay so that they can get stuck. You don't want anything to be falling off. I did actually have quite a few shell pieces on one of the bowls falling off after it had dried, and then I had to stick them back down. So make sure that you are securing whatever you're using on your bowl and just push it in lightly so that it can actually just sit tight. I thought that this little shell-shaped tool would work well for what I was trying to create around the edges. I just wanted to add a little bit of detail, so I'm just going to use this and go all the way around. Again, I think it's important to note that you can be very creative and find a lot of different things to make imprints in your clay. So yeah, just look around, find something amazing, make a few imprints, see what it looks like, and once you know what you want and once you know which look you like, you can finish off the bowl beautifully. Now that my details are all done, I'm going to use the glass to cut out the final shape of the bowl. As you can see, the clay got stuck to my work surface, so I can really recommend using something underneath, like maybe a piece of cling wrap or even some water on your surface. Just helps the clay to slide off more easily, and you won't be struggling like I did here to get it off. I'm going to be using this beautiful teacup to create the shape of the bowl, and I'm just going to place it inside and then use my knuckles and fingers to press down gently. And once I'm happy with it, this is going to sit and dry for about a day or two. Now it's time to make the second bowl, and this one is going to look a little bit different to the first one, but yeah, let's see how that all works out. I'm going to again take some clay, roll it out just because it got a little dry while I was making the first bowl, and I'm just going to warm up the clay with my hands, try to remove any cracks and air bubbles, and start rolling it out. Again, I'm going to be using a bowl to create the overall shape. I'm going to again use the little shot glass to create a center. This one was actually much deeper and this bowl was thicker than the previous one, but I really liked, just having something different. I'm going to use a bigger glass to create another circle, and then the blue shells I'm going to be placing in that circle in the middle. And yeah, I think this turns out really nicely. As you can see, I've just messed everywhere, but luckily we were able to place down this beautiful shell display, and I actually really like this bowl. It came out so beautifully. This project is actually only my second or third project with air dry clay, so I'm still learning a lot as I go, and it's just amazing because there is so much to learn. As you go and as you create more projects, you just learn all these little tips and tricks. So I would love to know what you guys are making with air dry clay, or if you have any wonderful tips, please share them with me in the comments. Now that I'm done with all the shell details, we're just gonna again remove this bowl from the surface, and I actually wanted to just create a little bit of a detail around the edges, so I've used the back of this tool, and as you can see, it's creating some gentle ridges around the sides, and I think this design is really beautiful. We're now going to set this out to dry, but I really wanted this bowl to have a different shape. So as I started placing it in, some of the edges lifted up, and I thought I would actually use that and create a few more ridges and edges just to give this bowl a bit of a different shape. I wanted it to have a slightly curved side and not be as perfect and plain, so I'm just creating these extra details on the sides and just placing a few tools just to help it to actually shape and mold around the tools to get that perfect shape that I absolutely love. I think this shape is really pretty, and I think it just creates a beautiful effect. I'm absolutely obsessed. We're now rolling out the clay for the third bowl, the third and final bowl. So again, we're following the exact same process, and the details that we're going to be placing and the way we're going to decorate this bowl is just going to be different, but everything else is exactly the same as we did with the blue and the pink bowl. I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do with this bowl, but I did want to do something different. So eventually I decided to use a stone or a rock, and I just actually used it to make different indents or imprints into the clay. And I decided that I was going to take the shell detail and fill that all out in between the holes that I've made with the stones. Now I'm done with placing all the shell details, and I'm just gonna smooth out any ridges or grooves that I'm not entirely happy with, and then we're gonna leave this guy to dry. I am so excited to see the finished product and to look at all of these balls once they're ready for us to proceed with painting them. Now that the bowls are all dry, we're just going to sand them all down, and without losing any details, just smoothing out any rough edges or any cracks or details that you might not think looks really appealing. And I wanted to have a really smooth finish, so I just sanded all over the place until I was happy with how it looked. Now we're going to be painting each bowl with a layer of white craft paint, and I definitely won't suggest skipping this step. If you do, then when you put the resin on the clay, there's going to be a reaction between the two, and the resin is actually going to stain the clay a little bit yellow or give it a bit of a discolored look. So I would suggest always painting your clay before you apply resin in order to get that crisp, clean finish. Now it's time to apply the resin to the bowls, but before we do that, I actually found these beautiful little details that I thought would look super cute at the center of the bowls. So one makes me think of a little mermaid. It is actually a separate project, but I kind of just saw this little rounded mermaid face, and I thought that it would look amazing at the center of a bowl. And I also decided that I was going to apply a heart in one of the other bowls. So I'm just quickly sanding these down, and we're going to stick them down before we resin, and it's going to look absolutely beautiful when it's finished. So So now I'm just going to cover all the bowls with resin. I'm going to do either 30 or 60 seconds under the UV lamp for each, and I think the most important thing here is just to make sure that you are covering every single nook and cranny. You don't want any of the clay to be sticking out. You want to make sure that the resin is covering everything, and it's just going to give you that glossy finish. Now that these are almost done, I just want to say thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you for sticking around to the end. I really hope that you enjoyed this project and that it inspires you to create something super amazing on your own. Have a wonderful day.